For those of you still living in fear of this falsely named pandemic, I've got some really good news for you. So let's get right into it. The Sturgis Motorcycle Rally is an annual event. It's massive. It took place in August of this year. An estimated 460,000 people went through this event over the course of a week and a half. And mainstream media and so-called experts have been desperate to show that the event had a major impact on COVID-19 spread and deaths. It's just not true. Anomaly recently put out a video in early September, I believe, and I'm going to show you a bit of that. I will have a link to that full video in the description below. I highly recommend checking it out. Here we go.
Do you remember the big event in South Dakota weeks ago the media was fear-mongering about? It was the Sturgis bike rally in South Dakota. Hundreds of thousands of people were attending. They said, oh my God, COVID is going to spread. It's going to be horrible. You haven't heard about it recently because once people start protesting and rioting, they all of a sudden forget about that narrative for a few weeks. But so far, the results are in, and let's look. USA Today, first COVID-19 death linked to massive Sturgis biker rally. Cases reported across the nation. So far, they're reporting one linked death. A Minnesota man who died was in his 60s and had underlying health conditions. That's correct. The event has been linked to one death. 118 residents who attended the rally tested positive for COVID-19. Nationally, about 300 cases have been linked to the rally. Around 460,000 people attended. One linked death, 300 linked cases. And the reason they say one linked death is just because you die with COVID-19 doesn't mean you die from COVID-19. If you have COVID-19 and you die, even if they're 100% sure you died from an alternate cause, they'll still list it as that.
So I think in this country, we've taken...
Okay, so there you have it. Anomaly did a great job covering this, but it goes further, ladies and gentlemen. It goes much further because San Diego State University put out a study that was highly inaccurate, completely false, and thankfully, the badasses that are the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally put out a response. And it's absolutely fantastic, and I'm going to read it for you. The San Diego State University IZA study regarding the COVID-19 cases resulting from the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally is blatantly faulty. The study concludes that nearly 20% of the COVID-19 cases reported in America from August 2nd to September 2nd are due to the event. This outrageous conclusion is antithetical to actual case data, as numerous state officials across the United States have been actively seeking to tie any COVID-19 case to the event. Despite these active efforts, fewer than 300 cases have been identified nationwide. 460,000 people, ladies and gentlemen. And this event was not, trust me, not following protocols. Anomaly himself, the guy who was in the video I just showed you, attended the event, as did my brother. He sells Harley Davidsons. He was there. This was not a crowd that was scared of the COVID, okay? They were not wearing masks or practicing social distancing. These are people that know. They know what's up. They know this isn't a pandemic, and they weren't going to be held back from this incredible annual event. The careless ease with which mainstream media outlets have published a report that multiplies the factual data by 1,000 is shameful. The absolute preposterousness of the conclusion is further demonstrated by the results of the community-wide mass testing which occurred after the event, where there were 26 positive cases out of 650 patients tested. The city of Sturgis holds those affected by COVID-19 in our thoughts and prayers as the virus continues to impact our nation and world. We recognize that individuals were exposed to the virus on their trip to, from, or while at the rally. But the data reported by health officials across the nation show that the impact from the event was a mere fraction of what was projected and anticipated by many of the so-called experts. I added so-called. The continued media focus on infection and the hope of increased transmission rates and death following this event are reminiscent of the models that told us that locally our hospitals would be overwhelmed. We would have a massive lack of ventilators and 3 to 5% of us would not survive. Fortunately, as we have seen, the underlying assumption of those models were unfounded and categorically inaccurate, just as is the conclusion of this report. Thank you, Sturgis Motorcycle Rally, for standing up to mainstream media, for holding your event, for doing things the way you needed to get them done. This response is absolutely fantastic. Now, I want to take this even a little bit further. There's a video on Blaze TV that really dives into the official data, and I will have a link to that full video in the description below. Again, I highly recommend you check it out. This one's really important. What I did here is grab this really important information that was featured in the video. This is astounding. Anyone who can look at this and still be in fear or believe that we're in an actual pandemic, I guess you're just going to live in fear, because the facts are right in front of us. This is officially from the CDC. There's nothing to fear here, ladies and gentlemen. So let's just run through this real quick. 85 and older, just 3.2% of U.S. population, but 1/3 of COVID-19 deaths. 75 and older, just 7% of U.S. population, but 59% of deaths. 54 and younger, 70% of U.S. population, but only 8% of deaths. Deaths don't register percent until 15 to 24, and even then, just 0.2%. Kids kindergarten through college, undergrad, in no significant danger of dying of COVID-19. All the schools, all the college campuses, all shut down for what? The data's out there. There is no danger here to these age groups at all, none whatsoever. There is no reason for this except political reasons, except some kind of economically motivated political nonsense. And we all know it now. The data's right in front of us. This is where it gets really juicy, though. Median age of COVID death right around 78, which is average U.S. life expectancy. I really want you to let that sink in. Just really think about that for a second. The average age of those reported having died from COVID is the average age of U.S. life expectancy. That means, that literally means that people that were likely going to die anyway, either because they were facing serious illnesses or just because it's that time in a person's life when death happens. These are the people that are supposed dying of COVID. And the data also wants to remind us that, keep in mind, these are coded as death with, not from COVID, with. As we know, CDC also released information stating that only 6% of all total deaths were caused solely by COVID. In almost all of those other cases, the 94%, these people had 2 to even 3 serious illnesses. They were facing death anyway. They happened to test positive for COVID. So yes, they died with COVID, not because of COVID. There is no pandemic, ladies and gentlemen. It's not happening. It's just not happening. And thank you to Sturgis for standing up to this, putting out an incredible response. I think it's time that the people, not just in the United States, but across the world, I think it's time we stand up and say enough is enough. Let's get people back to work. Let's open everything back up. There's nothing to fear here. Please like, share this video, and sub to the channel if you haven't. We'll catch you next time.